Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to Xandermonium, the talk show that gets you talking. I'm your host, Xander Gibb, and in part one, along with my guest co-host today, Tony Losacco, I will be looking at this week's most interesting news items. I will also be grabbing 5 minutes chit-chat with my good friend and fellow fighter in the fight to make America a better place, Dr. Gina Loudon. And in part deux, I will, along with Chase Crosby and also Brandon Coombs, discussing the calls for mental health checks as part of gun licensing/gun control. Call in and let us know what you think about that. 347-884-9061. You can also interact with us during the show in the chat room at the bottom of the page, and you can call us with questions on the number I just gave you, 347-884-9061, and comments to weigh in on our topics or start your own. And you can also tweet us. My Twitter handle is at Xander Gibb, XanderGibb, and also you can tweet Dr. Gina Loudon. Make sure you're following us too. That's Dr. DrGinaloudon, and you can also tweet my co-host, Tony Losacco, and I will get him to give you his new Twitter so you can go follow him. I nearly fainted when he told me he had a Twitter account, but we'll talk more about that very soon. So this Sunday, today, is Father's Day, and judging by the many emails that I've received from companies that want to sell me gifts, it really is becoming as big a moneymaker as Mother's Day. So one of the things all of these emails remind me is that my pop is gone, and I would give anything to have him back just for one day and give him the best gift I could think of. And knowing him, it would probably be something Star Trek related, as that was something we had a shared love of, even wrong teeth in today, or some interesting beers, as he liked a beer or two, again, just like me. Now, it got me to thinking how we wait till someone's gone to wish we had either more time with them or a better relationship, when by then it's really too late. Now, for those of you lucky enough to still have your father still here, even if you don't speak or are estranged for whatever reason, take that step today and call them, text them, email them, even to just say, Happy Father's Day, Pop, because take it from me, when they've gone, it's too late to have that shoulda, woulda, coulda moment. So reach out to your dad right now and tell them Xander Gibb told you to do so. Now, in other news, the TV show is coming on well, and we're just waiting for air dates. Boy, did that wide-angled lens get some use this past couple of weeks, so that really was an investment. Please make sure you go to freeourmarine.com. That's freeourmarine.com. And help to get our Marine, Andrew Tamaresi, free. Show your support for the American Marine, who is still in jail in Mexico despite calls to the White House and petitions with over 100,000 signatures being handed in. The people from that site, Free Our Marine, will hopefully be with us next week to tell us about their efforts and what they've been trying to do to make sure Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi is given the freedom and liberty that he deserves as an American citizen. Now, if you'd like to come and get on your soapbox, please email me at xander@xandergibb.com. That's xander@xandergibb.com. Also, if you go to the website, you can add to our mailing list. That's on the main page. And if you want to find anything out about the guests today. Maybe their emails, their Twitter, not their emails, their Twitters, their Facebook, all of that websites. You can check that on the show page for today. Go to www.xandergibb.com and click on today's show. So joining me to discuss some hot topics is broadcaster, libertarian, and free thinker, the one, the only Tony Losacco. Welcome back to the show, Tony. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Xander. How are you today?
I am fabulous, but like I said to you before you came on air, I wish I was drinking beer in the yard, eating hamburgers, but I'm sure I'll be going back to that right after the show. How is the weather in sunny Florida? Is it sunny down there today, too?
It is actually a beautiful day in Florida. I'm just sitting inside my nice air-conditioned home because I'm too lazy to get outside, enjoying my non-government regulated electronic cigarette.
Wow. Fabulous. Well, listen, let's get right into our first story of the day today. Now, apparently, Jennifer Aniston is so scared of facing Brangelina, a.k.a. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, she's hired, wait for it, a confidence coach. Yes, I said a confidence coach for help. Now, she successfulully avoided seeing them for years, but when inevitably see them at George Clooney's wedding as they are mutual friends. Aniston is apparently scared of humiliating herself in case she runs into them at this star-studded ceremony. The last time they were seen under one roof was at the 2009 Oscars. Meanwhile, Aniston is planning her own wedding for this summer. Rumors abound that she will marry her beau, Justin Theroux, on his 43rd birthday, which is the 10th of August, and the couple announced their engagement in August 2012. So what are your first thoughts about this, Tony? Do you think she's really that scared of bumping into them? After all, she was the wronged party. She wasn't the wronger or the wrongdoer, for want of a better word. What's your immediate thoughts about this?
Well, my immediate thought is I have nothing bad to say about coaching. I think it's a great idea for anybody that feels they need it. That's kind of the whole idea of coaching in general, whether it's what I do, the life coaching or confidence coaching, relationship coaching. It's just for people who really aren't that confident or just need some extra encouragement or extra push. So the more power to her. If she feels that that's going to help her out and she needs somebody to encourage her and strengthen her, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, it's a great thing that she's got somebody that's willing to do it, and it's a great thing for whoever it is that she's willing to pay them to do it.
Right. So what kind of format would that counseling take? I know it would kind of depend on what the individual was looking to do or achieve, but what kind of exercises would you do with an individual in order to help them to boost their confidence?
Well, it's a lot like counseling in the sense that there is no one set standard. Everybody thinks there's standards with counseling and mental health, but everybody follows kind of a different track in a theory. It's much the same way with coaching. In fact, it's a lot more variety when it comes to coaching because there is no national certification process. So basically anybody can call themselves a coach. You can, I can, and it can be no training. They may not have exercises or training. A lot of coaches actually base it off of their life experience, and that counts a lot when it comes to coaching. People who have themselves overcome things or learned how to be confident in real life, and then they basically, it's more of a mentoring thing, teach other people how to build that confidence. One of the things I would work with personally, because my background's from counseling and that's my training, is it's called exposure, basically. In counseling, they call it exposure.
Sounds a bit dirty, Tony.
Well, it's an interesting concept. I'll give you an example. Like, I was terribly afraid of the thunderstorms and hurricanes when I came down, okay? I'm not really anymore because little by little I got exposed and realized my car wasn't going to get swooped up by a tornado. So now that fear is gone. Well, that's what exposure therapy is about. You expose people little by little in progression to the thing they're afraid of, and you practice with them little by little, and you give them homework assignments and follow up till they're more confident and they can face their fears. And then the hope is in the end, by building that up, it's gone.
So is it kind of a friend of mine last year who was afraid to fly? Don't worry, I won't name you.
Mm-hmm.
You know who you are. But they went on this course. Don't worry, it's not Tony, I assure you. Tony's not afraid to fly. But he went on this course, this guy friend of mine, and they went on a flight simulator and stuff, and apparently it really went a long way towards kind of curbing his fear of flying. But they did this in stages too. And like you say about this exposure, they kind of like did it in stages rather than just, right, we're going to take you to fly now. Do you think that that's an integral part of confidence building with regards to any issue, to kind of like to do it slowly and to gradually build up to like a crescendo with the real thing?
Well, absolutely. And once again, like I said, there's a whole variety of techniques. It really depends on what you've lived through, what you've experienced, and what you've been trained in. Another very popular technique that I might use with a client like that would be behavioral techniques, meaning it's similar to exposure, but it's where you sit down and you practice the scenario. And then there's cognitive techniques where basically if people are really fearful, you ask them to get into their deepest fear, and then you rehearse their deepest fear scenario, and you have them face it with them, and a lot of role-playing and things. So there's all different ways to overcome that, but ultimately, in coaching, the result really is up to the person on whether they're going to change and whether they're going to overcome it. The coach's job is really just to give somebody the tools and the encouragement and the accountability they need to push them to that change. Because nobody can change anybody else. It's up to the person.
Because I guess most fears are irrational. Now, I have sleep disorders, and when I lived in the city, and I used to live in a first floor apartment, I used to sleep with the window open. And my sister said, "Aren't you worried about someone like climbing in?" And I wasn't, because I think that they would get a bigger shock, seeing me if they climbed in my window. But these times when you're trying to fall asleep, I used to have these like irrational fears. I used to think, what if someone put the snake through the window? Because I have a fear of snakes. I don't like snakes. And I used to have to kind of like talk myself off the ledge, because I learned this methodology when I was training to be a counselor in the UK, that if you look at the commonalities, like how many times have I slept in that apartment, and how many times has anybody ever put a snake through the window? The probability is that, because that's never happened, the likelihood is that it's never going to happen. So that was one way it's kind of like a coping strategy, if you like, that I'd learned. But it actually really worked, because they say that most fear is irrational, don't they, really?
And Xander, you just one of the most exciting aspects of coaching to me, which is you could coach somebody with that. See, that's what it's all about, is everybody has different experiences in life and has faced different challenges that they've overcome, and they've learned how to do that. And it's basically sharing your knowledge with other people that don't have that or haven't experienced it to help them move forward in life. And the big difference between that and counseling is counseling's mainly problem-focused, like what's your disorder, what's your diagnosis, how we're going to treat you. What coaching is all about is what is your goal, what's your objective, how do we move forward in life.
Exactly. And so I guess that the level of response to each individual problem is going to be different, because each problem is actually gonna be different. A lot of people have criticized Jennifer Aniston for this and kind of said, well, get over it. But I suppose, obviously this is an irrational fear, but how is this different from any other irrational fear? It's no different than Xander Gibb falling asleep with his sleep disorders, worrying that a snake might come into the room. It's not going to happen, and probably if she does see them, there's not going to be an issue. But getting that knowledge to be head knowledge and heart knowledge for Jennifer Aniston is a different story, isn't it? Let's face it, because your own irrational fear is exactly that, your own irrational fear, and no kind of amount of judging is going to make that any different or make it go away.
Exactly. I mean, we all have it. I really don't like. I mean, we all judge, but it's better to judge others because we can't put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. And for her, it's a significant issue she's faced in her life, and we're not one to. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. But just because it's not real to me, you, or the public doesn't mean it's not very real to her and it's not negatively impacting her life.
Exactly.
So what's she doing?
Exactly.
She's doing the honorable thing. She's getting help to move forward. That's what it's about.
Exactly. So we can emphatically say from Xandermonium a big thumbs up to Jennifer Aniston, and we wish you every luck with your confidence building. Now, from one celebrity to the child of a celebrity, the child of Beyonce and Jay-Z, Blue Ivy, her hair has been subject to a petition this week with all the negative commentary surrounding her beautiful head of curls, as with most, ethnic children have got this kind of hairstyle. It has been mostly rude and unnecessary. However, a new picture of the child has attracted criticism. Jasmine Tolliver, who created Change.org, petition entitled Comb Her Hair. Now, the petition reads, are you ready for this? As a woman who understands the importance of hair care, it's disturbing to watch a child suffering from the lack of hair moisture. The parents of Blue Ivy, Sean Carter, a.k.a. Jay-Z, and Beyonce have failed at numerous attempts of doing Blue Ivy's hair. This matter has escalated to the child developing matted dreads and lint balls. Please let's get the word out to properly care for Blue Ivy. I mean, I want to go to you first of all because I'm sure your response is similar to mine. I really had to take a step back. First of all, to say, what the hell are Change.org, who are supposed to be this responsible organization, allowing such ridiculous issues to be subject to petitions? What do you think to that, Tony?
Well, two things. First, as soon as I heard about the story, I did a little research. It's important to point out that this woman is defending herself now and saying it was a joke. Get over it. I didn't expect it to catch on. It was an internet prank. So let's not fault the woman. She's come out basically and said, look, this was just a joke. It shows you that nobody's got anything better to do with their time. The real issue is how 2,000 people signed a petition like that and how, like you said, Change.org put it on their website.
Exactly.
So in her defense, she meant nothing by it. It was an internet prank, nothing but.
I have to say, though, Tony, it's easy to say after it was just a joke. Why the hell do it? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Why the hell, helicopter, put a petition together over something that's caused a lot of controversy? And let's face it, you can't tell people how to dress their kids or how they should have their hair. I have friends. I have black friends who have different hair every week, and good for them. I wish I was the same. I wish I had the kind of hair where I could make it look different all the time. But why should anybody be telling anybody how to dress their kids? I'm sure she's clean. I'm sure she's well kept. I mean, it seems ridiculous to me to do this kind of thing and then say, well, it was just a joke.
And I kind of agree with you. In fact, there's an old saying, there's truth behind every joke, and I think
right.
That's very true. There's truth behind every joke. So it was, if nothing else, it was in bad taste on her part. And it does get back to a fundamental issue, which, as you know, as a libertarian, it irks me big time. Why do people in this country have to think that they can run other people's lives? We are free, intelligent human beings. Who cares? That's between her and her child with her hairstyle. But this is a growing trend in this country, no matter what it is, if you notice, Xander, nationwide, no matter what it is, to run other people's lives. And, in fact, to tell people who disagree, who they don't think should have that opinion, you can't have that opinion. I've heard people go as far as saying people should be put in jail or re-educated and put in re-education camps on some sides of the spectrum because their views are ignorant. But so what? It's America.
I wrote about this quite recently, and my point was exactly this. If we live in a country where we have freedom of speech, do we always have to agree? And I find that on social media that if you do disagree with people, they want to fight you and they want to go to war with you. And then they will. I was accused of several things last week, and I'll tell you what it was about. It was with regards to I'm of the opinion that I felt it was a bad decision for President Obama to free 5 top Taliban terrorists and swap them for this Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. I was called, I was going to say anti-Semitic, so you can't get away from the Jewish thing. Anti-American. I was called unpatriotic. And then it even got to the stage where I was called a racist because I disagreed with President Obama's decision. Now, anyone who knows me well, that I'm far from being a racist. But why do we have to go to these? Why can't we just agree to disagree? And why do we always have to go to these lengths? Let me just give out the number in case anybody wants to call in. It's 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. You can talk about any of the items we have talked about. Should we be able to agree to disagree? Should we be telling Tony how Kiko should have his hair? Yeah, Kiko cut his hair recently, didn't he? He could cut it a lot shorter than it was. Let me go and put a petition online now to make Kiko grow his hair back. You know what I mean? Isn't it so just, it's that ridiculous.
You know, Xander, it's interesting. I happen to be watching for once. I do watch it occasionally for amusement. I admit it, Fox News. And I had Strutzel was on there. I believe that's his name, John Strutzel. And he was debating, I think it was Lou Dobbs on there. And he made an interesting comment. He said, I didn't know this about him. He said, he was talking about himself. He said he used to be a left-wing liberal, but then he switched to the Libertarian Party. And he said he doesn't understand why his former liberal friends call him hateful and ignorant and won't even debate him and say he should be locked up and everything, but why the conservatives who still disagree with him will be open to debating him and challenging him. And he said, it's sad because I used to be a liberal, but at least the conservatives will dialogue with me and argue with me, but the liberals who are supposed to be my friends and were well tolerant are not tolerant. And I really heard that, and I was like, boy, I can really relate to that. I understand that. Because why can't we just agree to disagree and debate?
Right.
Opinion is opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that it gets to, for me, what it does, it debases your argument if you have to resort to saying to name calling because you don't agree with any particular position. Because if I'm totally honest, there are a lot of people I totally vehemently disagree with. This is the funny thing. You know, I left the Dems about a year ago, and consider myself to be a libertarian now. I'm a traitor now because I've done that, and I've moved over to the dark side. And someone said to me a couple of weeks ago, the next thing is that I might be joining the Tea Party. Hey, who knows? Stranger things have happened. But for me, just because you don't agree with me doesn't make you bad or wrong or unpatriotic or racist. You know, and if anybody doesn't agree with anything that I say, then they're Xanderphobic. That's what we came up with. If this is the way we're going to play it, then anybody that disagrees with me is Xanderphobic. Because I think that sometimes you have to, obviously in jest, resort to the level of ridiculousness that other people do just to show them how ridiculous that is. Because I had someone saying, well, that's ridiculous. How can I be Xanderphobic? Well, how can I be racist? Because I disagree with someone's opinion just because they happen to be a black person. It's nothing to do with the color of their skin. It's his decision that I'm disagreeing with, you know?
At least you're just a Jew-hating racist, Xander. I'm a homophobic.
Yeah, I'm a Jew-hating
I am homophobic. I hate those homosexuals.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though I am one. Oh, but I've been accused of self-hatred, too. That's come across. I mean, for example, the U.S. Embassy posted the gay pride flag up in Tel Aviv below the American flag. And I commented on that, and it's on my Twitter feed actually now. I said this is wrong, essentially, because are we now going to post every other flag up behind the American flag? Why are we going to allow the Christians to post the Christian flag? There'd be a big uproar.
Right.
But, you know, people take that and then I'm anti-homosexual. No, it doesn't. I just don't follow, like you, I don't follow particular ideologies or black and white party lines. Sometimes the party's right, and other times they're wrong. There's a balance, and it's individual, which I don't understand why America is so stuck on the black and whites nowadays.
Exactly. I don't know why it has to come down to these things, but unfortunately for some people it really does. But we laugh on the show. I always say I have to send my fag badge back. But I think I actually mislaid it somewhere. Really, I think a few years ago it got lost in the move or something. But I do think that we have to challenge these levels of ridiculousness, because if we don't, it just becomes nauseating. In the end, I had to walk away from this fight, because when you're calling people things like racist and unpatriotic and un-American, I mean, I don't know anybody that's more patriotic than me. I really don't. I love this country, and I will do everything I can to make it a better place. But unfortunately, we're never always all going to agree. I think it was, Winston Churchill said something like, you can please some of the people all of the time, all of the people, or all of the people some of the time, some of the people all of the time, but you'll never please all of the people all of the time. I think that once you actually accept that basic premise, life kind of like becomes a lot better, a lot easier to live.
Yes, I mean, I love the quote, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. And people mistake that a lot with me. I'll defend to the death the bakery who doesn't bake the cake for the homosexual. It's not because I agree with them or I don't think they're ignorant. I just defend their right to be ignorant, stupid haters, because it's freedom,
Absolutely. I mean, I do. With all of that kind of came out, it does get ridiculous when people are. You see, both sides kind of bother me so much on this. Like the gay hairdresser that refused to work on the hair of the governor of one of the southern states because he disagreed with her politics. I mean, all power to him. That's his right. But we can't then say that it's wrong for Christians to be refusing to make a wedding cake for gay people. It kind of gets to ridiculous proportions.
And you know what, Xander? If I may say something, what I've often said is when we start using these labels, and you know what, I'm going to be very, very arrogant for a moment, which is not when we, because I don't.
Like you, Tony.
I don't use the labels. I don't. But when people start using labels, start calling things hate speech, hate crime, atrocity, comparing people to the Nazis, terrorists, what you're doing is you're lessening the meaning and the value of the word. And the Nazis don't become Nazis anymore. Then the terrorists don't become terrorists. Because now anybody who says something you don't like is a terrorist, and the word gets overused and the meaning changes. And it has a negative effect.
Well, I was called anti-Semitic last year for likening Putin to Hitler, but I don't get that because well obviously as a Jew I'm if I wanted to talk about the Holocaust I could talk about it because it's something that I own that. I don't mean it belongs to me. I mean like. I had relatives that were lost in that, but I don't see how likening Putin to Hitler makes me, anti-Semitic. I laughed. I really did. I laughed out loud when I was called anti-Semitic. How can you be anti-Semitic if you're a Jew? How can you be anti-gay if you're gay? It's kind of like what you said about self-hating. Listen, Tony, we're coming to the end of our time together. Tell people about your new page so we can get them to go like it and we can get them to follow you on Twitter too.
Sure. Well, I've got two different pages actually because I like to keep my helping people separate from my political views, which offend many. So on Twitter, if you want to hear my political rants, I call it @TheFullStory2014. And that's basically not a left-wing or a right-wing page. It splits the truth right down the middle. And that's at FullStory2014 on Twitter, and that's for my political side of things. If you're interested in life coaching or any type of coaching at all, or want some help or guidance or advice, you can reach me at iNetLifeCoach on Twitter. So the two separate accounts. The iNet Life Coach is basically for life coaching and advice, and the Full Story 2014 is the Twitter account for politics.
Exactly. So make sure you go follow Tony on both of those. Tony is a regular guest co-host on the show. Make sure you show him your support. And thank you, Tony, for coming and joining us today as the guest co-host for the Hot Topic section. And we hope you have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you. You too, Xander. Thanks for having me on.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Tony. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. That was Tony Losacco. Make sure you go follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and all of the other social media out there. So my next guest is not only my colleague in fighting the good fight to make America a better place, but she is the host of Smart Life on the Money Biz Life Network, a mother, a conservative warrior, an author, a politichick, and I am proud to say one of my BFFs. Oh, yes, indeed, she is. We're just waiting for her to call in, but my next guest is the wonderful, the fabulous Dr. Gina Loudon, who should be calling us any second right now. Just a minute to remind you that my book is going to be out really soon. You should check that out. It's called The Boy from Beyond the Ice House, and it is my debut novel. Yes, indeed, it is. And basically, it's based upon my life, but it is a work of fiction. As they say, the best thing to do when you're writing a book is to write about what you know. So The Boy from Beyond the Ice House is the debut novel of one and only yours truly, Xander Gibb. And it's set in the 80s, as all good books are, and it tells the tale of a boy who is torn in every single way, from his Jewish heritage and his love for Jesus to his sexuality given his spirituality. Talented and sensitive with a deep need to be loved, he tries to survive the maze of growing up with issues. Now, the Ice House goes from being a derelict building where this boy once played as a child to a place where he finds salvation and some sense in this crazy mixed-up world. His interesting and controversial trek is testament to his sense of right and wrong, and also humor in a confusing world of change and decision. Where will his path take him? Back to his maternal family roots in London, England, or will he choose to remain in the boogie-down Bronx of good old New York City? Whatever he decides and whoever he becomes, I am sure it will make for an interesting tale that twists and turns more than a winding road. So join him on his journey and get a glimpse into the life of the boy from Beyond the Ice House. Not a book for the faint of heart, but is a great adventure from cover to cover. Oh, yes, indeed it is. So that's going to be out next month. Check on Amazon for that. So just what we're going to do now is play you a song while we get Dr. Gina online. It's called Good Stuff by Andres Quintero.
Another Friday night you're calling, telling me how Mr. Right is wrong again. You found a picture on his phone, I listen while you sing the same old song again. You say the best ones are taken, but girl, you're mistaken. There's one guy for you, why can't you see?
Oh, yes, indeed. He does have the good stuff. That was Good Stuff by Andres Quintero. And we can now bring live on to the show the one, the only, the fabulous, my BFF, Dr. Gina Loudon. Good afternoon,
Hey,
Dr. Gina. How you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. How are you doing?
Okay, good. I'm doing well. Thank you. I got a new headset. You know how that goes. So, doing well. How are you?
Absolutely. I am wonderful. Yeah, technology often eludes me. I just got a new iPhone, and my nephew is making me feel really old because there's certain things that I don't know how to do on it as yet. But I'm getting there. I'm breaking into the technological age, as it were.
I'd say you're doing really well. I see you all over social media. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I understand some of your recent commentary regarding Obama's barmy decisions has got you some rather vitriolic responses of late.
Yes, well, I think when people feel threatened, when people feel moved, they're going to react emotionally. And so we should expect that if we're going to be upsetting someone's apple cart or causing them, we should be expecting some vitriol. So I'm always sort of gratified, oddly, when that happens. And this past couple of weeks has been no exception. I was on Loudon's show on Fox Business, and he asked me about just the decisions that Obama has made of late. Most notably, of course, the one with Bergdahl. And I told him what I thought, and I guess some people don't appreciate that.
Absolutely, and it wasn't as if you'd profited the opinion. You were actually asked for that opinion, weren't you?
Sort of. Actually, we did sort of a free interview. Very unusual for Fox. The only person who's ever done that was me before is Greg Gutfeld. But usually on Fox, I don't know the questions they're going to ask until I'm sitting right there and you're watching. But this was different. Lou came on ahead and he said, "Are you comfortable commenting on, the erratic behavior of Barack as a behavioral professional?" I said, "Sure." And so
Absolutely.
That's kind of how that happened, yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about one of those particular decisions that have been considered erratic that have been made by the president in swapping 5 top Taliban terrorists for one deserter, possible collaborator. Where was the sense in all of this decision, Gina?
I'm sorry. Say the last part again?
Where was the sense in this decision that Obama made to swap 5 top Taliban terrorists for one?
Yeah, that's certainly the question that everybody's asking. I have a few psychological theories. We tend to do what feels familiar. We tend to want to help people that we both identify with. And, Dinesh D'Souza, in his latest film, his film that he did before this 2016 film, he talked a lot about Obama and his anti-colonial. He taught him that most of the things that are wrong in the world have to do with American greed, American structure, those sorts of things, American capitalism, in a sense. And it sounds like that Bo Bergdahl's dad thinks a lot of those same things, if not even more of them. It sounds to me like perhaps he literally declared jihad on our White House on the lawn. But that might be a different topic. I think initially when Obama decided to move for Bergdahl as opposed to moving to help our Mexican hero held in our hero held in a Mexican prison, Andrew Camarisi, or any of a number of others who were being held around the world. When he moved to help Bergdahl, I wonder if it didn't have to do with him being able to relate to being raised by a dad who is an anti-colonialist, who sees America as just a great fault.
Absolutely. I mean, let's touch momentarily on the issue of Sergeant Andrew Tamarisi, who's still, as you said, languishing in that Mexican jail, when a single call from President Obama or even a few well-chosen financial sanctions would secure his release. What the helicopter is going on here? Why is Obama not dealing with this situation? If he can bring back someone like Bo Bergdahl and Yes, he's an American citizen. Let's not look at any other side of that. But Andrew Tamaresi, I'm sorry, I never know how to pronounce his name, is an American citizen too. Why are we not doing more as a country to bring our Marine home?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel completely differently about Bergdahl. Yeah, he's an American citizen, but he walked away. I mean, he left. And I feel like I say to people every day when they're complaining about America, whether it's saying, we should be giving amnesty to people that came here illegally while others are waiting their place in line and doing it as our founding fathers designed, or whether it's that people think that America should use a capitalist system that has worked really well for America in the past. Whatever their reason is, I think that's completely fine. I am a firm believer in the First Amendment, and I think they should be able to walk away. So I fully support someone walking away from America as long as they stay and don't ask us to go back in and find them, which is precisely what happened. If it isn't worse than that, if Bergdahl wasn't perhaps giving information to terrorists and so on and so forth. But I don't think there's any comparison between a Bo Bergdahl, who, as far as I know, has done nothing heroic in his life. I sure haven't heard anything. And an Andrew Tamaresi, who served 2 tours of duty. He's been blown up essentially twice, suffered PTSD, and was in San Diego for treatment. And I happen to live right here where all this happened, on the border. I'm looking at the ocean and Mexico right now, literally as I'm talking to you. And I can tell you that I take that turn all the time. It's very confusing. The signage changes all the time that Andrew Tamaresi right there where he turned wrong. People say, oh, come on, a wrong turn. No. Let me tell you. Signs are on the ground. They move them all the time because it's constantly under flux, construction, and other things. If you think second world, even though it's on the American side, it feels very second world once you get down in that part of the country. Very quickly it becomes something that doesn't look American at all. And the way they do things, I don't know how else to say it, just doesn't look like the rest of America. So it's about a 5 or 10 lane prospect getting in there. And once you're in, remember, 10,000 or more cars cross every single day on that border. I've waited as long as 6 hours to get across that border. So once you're thrust in a line, there's no backing up or turning around or waving out your window, hey, can you let me in that lane? That cannot happen. Once you're in that line, you're going across the border, and there's not a dang thing you could do about it. And it turns out that, of course, he had his guns and his ammo. When you move, you have your guns and your ammo. When I moved, I had my guns and my ammo. And in fact, that very weekend, my husband and I to Mexico just on a little getaway for the weekend, which is sometimes. And my husband said, you were at the range this week. Practicing. You take all your guns and ammo out of the car. You sure don't want to accidentally carry those across the border. You don't want to do that. So it makes perfect sense to let me live here. What happened? I know for the rest of America, they're thinking, wait, what was the guy doing? Guns and ammo, crossed the border. He crossed the border before. Let me tell you, I cross the border all the time, and I get lost almost every time I cross the border. It's confusing. They change it. They move the signage. And the other really confusing thing about this that people need to understand, when you take that specific turn, that do-or-die turn, you are headed, it looks north. It actually cloverleaf, but it's hard to see that. So it looks like you're headed north back up to the U.S., when in fact cloverleaf puts you immediately in that line, and there's no turning back once you take that cloverleaf. So we know exactly how it happens.
Absolutely, and like a lot of people, I saw the segment that Greta made and showed on the TV with regards to how easy it was to make that turn. But surely what should actually go in this person's favor is that the first thing he did when he crossed the border was the responsible thing, and go and hold his hands up and say, look, I've crossed the border accidentally, and this is what I have with me. I have these guns with me. He didn't conceal anything, did he?
No, he not only declared it all at the border to the border officials, but he called American 911. He's like, holy cow, you won't believe I did this, help. And the 911 operator is like, oops, sorry. I don't know why that person's not being held responsible, because that border section, as I understand it right there, is actually the territory sort of both countries. And I think that, wouldn't have been out of line at all right at that point.
Exactly. And once again, this is an issue that's caused divide, the disagreement about what should be done to assist Sergeant Tamaresi. why do you think people cannot simply agree to disagree about issues political? And why do some people seem to treat the disagreement as a sport?
Yeah, well, I think that there are a lot of people that are very angry. We've sort of been raised in this entitlement society, and we've developed, especially millennials, have developed an entitlement mentality. And I'll tell you, as a mother of 5 children, it is really, really hard to raise children without that sense of entitlement. I even said to my husband, we need to find a work camp or something for our kids for the summer. So everybody where we live, they go to surf camp, they do all this fun stuff. You know, their life is a party, and they really don't even understand responsibility. One of my kids gave me an eye roll when I asked him to load the dishwasher, and I thought, that's it, I'm doing something wrong. Because the dishwasher is a luxury in every other part of the world. It can't be loaded. It's very easy to contribute to our household. And so this is, it's the American condition. And so what has happened then is people grow up and they're angry. Anything that goes wrong in their life, they want to blame someone. Politics has very much contributed to this, especially over the last few years. You blame the other party whenever anything goes wrong. It happens on both sides, although I'll admit that the statists are much more effective at blaming conservatives than conservatives are at blaming leftists. But you got to give a deeper effort to the conservatives. At least they try. But both sides blame the other. When really what we should be doing is sitting down and going, okay, what do we agree on? That's what you and I have done. Tamara Holder is a friend that I've developed when I've done Sean Hannity's show with some regularity, and she's been on a few times with me, and we sat across the aisle and debated harshly. And when it's over, we laugh, we joke, and we figure out what we have in common. So when I decided to hold this press conference for Tamara on the border, one of the first things I called was Tamara Holder, and I said, are you willing to stand with me? She said, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Than that, I think, for myself, and I want to support our war hero in this. And
exactly.
I can't even think about it. I don't even know if she agrees with me in my different beliefs on military spending and things like that. So, I mean, I don't know that she and I agree on much, but then we figured out what we agreed on, and we made a difference. And that's where our politicians in both parties lie to us. They say, if you subscribe to our line of thought, if you have party line, gung-ho, defend us no matter what the cost, and blame the other side when anything goes wrong, it's very small, it's very immature, and it's very destructive to our country.
Exactly. But don't you think we're kind of conditioned to that on both sides? Because I know before I left the Democratic Party, I see now I was conditioned to respond in a certain way to any commentary about Obama and to blame it on either phobic or racism, or there was another reason behind it. Can it just be sometimes that these policies are faulty, or these things that we're disagreeing on are clearly, so wrong that it's important to talk out, to speak out about it?
Well, I think if people could kind of get out of junior high school and stop blaming, and some of the things you pointed out are very astute, and listen to the other side, you can learn. This is the thing, too. I say to my dad all the time, I say, you can't know your opinions are right unless you're balancing them with those who agree with you. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you believe. You cannot know that what you believe is true unless you have been able to defend yourself in your own mind. I'm not saying win a debate or in a public forum. If you don't spend a lot of quality time debating people that disagree with you, then you have, in my opinion, no business holding an opinion at all. I think it's hypocrisy, because you can't really believe that you know the other side's arguments and their heart in those arguments until the point where you love that person enough to give them vulnerability with your heart and really hear what they have to say. Most people in this world are pretty well intentioned. You're right, we get conditioned, we get selfish, we get lambasted, and that all needs to stop. And what needs to start is a place of dialogue that says, hey, we're not going to agree on everything. You and I don't agree on everything.
No.
But we are very sensitive to each other's strong points and to the things that we agree on, and to places where we can make an altruistic difference for the things that we do agree on. So that's
Absolutely. And it kind of brings to mind that phrase that I can never remember. I need to tattoo it onto my eyelids about having compassion does not kind of like what's the phrase, you know, the one I'm talking about?
I know precisely what you're talking about, and it is here, and I quote him all the time. It's like the quote says that disagree with you does not mean that I hate you, and to love you doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything that you believe. That's in a nutshell
exactly
what that is. And it's Pastor Rick Warren that's doing it. And it's absolutely true, and I think you and I figured that out. You know, a lot of people, they go to their work every day, they watch the sports on the weekends, they do their thing, but they maybe have one big cause that kind of supersedes their reason in a lot of ways. And I think that's dangerous. I think people can check themselves if they go, all right, I have one big cause that really, really pushes my buttons, makes me emotional. I can tell you what mine is. You could probably tell me what yours is. But if there is one, that's where you have to really guard your heart. And you have to make sure that you're taking time to listen to other people, because otherwise you really may be letting that one issue, however right it is, right? Maybe letting that one issue cloud your judgment in terms of things like blindly defending politicians who really may not deserve your defense, that kind of thing.
Exactly. I mean, I can honestly say that you know that part of my evolutionary process, not just politically but also as an individual, has been about taking a step back and actually looking at other people's perspectives and not being afraid to say, hey, I was actually wrong about that, because to me that is far more humanistic than just responding and saying you're phobic, you're this, you're that. You know, if we actually we always come back to this point of civil discourse, but I think that it's at the root of what's actually going to save this country, and it's going to bring us all together to be able to make America a better place.
Yes, and noting that the elite in Washington, D.C. on both sides do not want us to have that discourse, because when we do, the power goes back to the people where it belongs. And they like the power right by that beltway. They're real comfortable with that, and they live pretty nicely off of that. And if they keep us divided and we don't talk, they get to get you on their merry little way. So people need to consider, you know, if you hate things about Washington, D.C., if you see the corruption and you see how it's rotting away the heart of America, you want to do something about it, the best thing you can do is take a page out of true tolerance. Tolerance doesn't mean that you have to accept everyone's lifestyle. Tolerance means that you have to truly care enough to listen to other people's perspectives and consider, what if they were right? What if they see this from their best place? Even if I think it's flawed, really are coming from a place of compassion, believing what they believe. And when you look at people politically that way, you learn really fast that the only cold, heartless ones are sitting inside that beltway, and that the rest of us are living out our passions and our dreams the best we can, and defending them as vehemently as we can, even when it's clumsy. And if we are capable of garnering a lot of power for ourselves, taking it out of the hands of truly corrupt, if we are willing to be truly tolerant, and that means free to disagree, and understanding that just because I don't agree with you on one element of what you believe doesn't mean that I hate you, or that I can't be compassionate, or that I can't be friends with you. Yeah. Absolutely.
And you know, adopting that methodology has kind of like filtered through into other areas of my life too. And I think that we should always be looking to change and grow and improve, because otherwise we do become stunted and we become tunnel visioned in our whole outlook. We're kind of time is catching up with us, but I want to ask you about a couple more things. You raised a valid issue on your show recently while talking about the Santa Barbara shooting, and you talked about the possibility if a responsible gun owner had been around, it might have been a different outcome. Forgive my paraphrasing, but how do you think how often do you think that would actually occur in reality? I'm sure you personally in a situation like that wouldn't think twice about intervening, but do you think your average gun owner would intervene in something like that?
Well, it doesn't matter what I think at all. As I said on my swap going back a long time ago, I don't think that my opinions matter at all. But the facts do matter. And this is what I know to be true. take a country like Switzerland. Switzerland is the only country, or one of the only countries, I think the only country, that actually put its citizens with guns and made sure that they all had them, because they knew something was awry in Hitler's regime, and they wanted to make sure that just in case, whatever it was Hitler was doing, spread to Switzerland, but they were sort of prepared for that. And so they started training kids as young as 12, actually. And so kids, it's like anything. You bring your kids for math, and the ones that are good at it excel, and the ones that aren't don't. But the kids who are good at it still stay as young as 12, while the guns club. And so that's, would everyone need to carry guns? Do I think that's a good plan? No, I don't. I don't think you should force people to do anything in terms of America. But
see you in a minute.
Want to carry them. It's voice free. Maybe, for example, have phosphorus on board. I don't think you should all be able to carry a gun if you're ready. And yes, if one of the roommates that Santa Barbara shooter killed first, with a knife, by the way, not with a gun, stabbing. If one of them had
let's ban knives. Sorry, I was being facetious. I said let's ban all knives.
Yeah, exactly. Or better yet, let's ban buckets, because more people die drowning in a bucket. More babies die every year drowning in a bucket than they do with guns. So yeah, we can ban some really ridiculous things, starting with cars. But yeah, if you're going to ban something, you have to really consider how that carries over and how much power you're giving. Again, those elites inside the Beltway, how much of your liberties you're giving up. And if one of those people that was stabbed and had a gun or had a knife, even if it had to be trained, then perhaps there would have been no death that day.
Absolutely. Now, we're coming to the end of our time together. I want to ask you just one more question. Some have suggested that the Tea Party movement is dead. Now, does the brat win signify otherwise? This is a two-part question. Second part of the question is, do you wish people would check the aims and objectives of the Tea Party more rather than just accept the media's slanted response?
Listen to a plethora of sources for their news, conservative and otherwise. I think that people should, like I said, I think it's balanced opinion by listening to a myriad of opinions. But certainly the Bratwin does statements, and I'm not ready to say we call the 2016 election or anything like that. And I've certainly never been one of those that the Tea Party said. The Tea Party existed long before the Tea Party had a name. It was a group of conservatives trying to hold the Republicans accountable. That's essentially what the Tea Party is. And it's always been there. I've always been part of it, going back to, Bush 1 election. And we have a way to sort of coalesce around those of us who didn't approve of the party elite shoving candidates down our throats, shoving legislation down our throats, and those kinds of things, and those of us who went along to get along, get more power, more money. So the Tea Party's always been there. So to call it dead is just a pretty nice perspective at all, and I don't have a lot of respect for people that are going to take such a simpleton view of something that's quite complex.
Absolutely. Well, we've come to the end of our time together, Dr. Gina. Tell people about what day, when your show is, and where they can find you on social media.
Sure. My show is daily, Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, and it is, you can go to drginashow.com. It's Dr. Gina Show. You can find it there, there's a live link. And also, they can find me all over Facebook, Twitter, you name it. I'm all over the place. Got a new book coming out called What Women Really Want with my good friends Anne-Marie Morell and Morgan Brittany. I know you've had them on as well. And
absolutely.
You think you're a rock star. That's what.
And I hope you'll come back with Morgan and Anne-Marie when you're doing your book tour and come and tell us all about your book. Make sure you pre-reserve your copy of What Women Really Want on Amazon, and the links are on the show page for today, so go check that out. But for now, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Gina. You have my love and respect. Give my best to all of your family.
Oh, my whole family are big Xander fans for having me on today.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks so much, Dr. Gina.
All right, God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Mama?
Well, that was the one, the only, Dr. Gina Loudon. Make sure you check her out on Facebook and Twitter, and also make sure you pre-order her book that is coming out in September. It's called What Women Really Want. You can find links to it in this week's mail out and also on the show page. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed, you can. So make sure you pre-order that book, and that it's coming out in September. So with the recent shootings in Santa Barbara, Las Vegas, and Oregon, once again, and quite predictably, there have been calls for stricter gun control. Those for and against are painted as equally stubborn, and whilst I am still very in the middle on these issues, mostly because guns scare the helicopter out of me, I'm sure, as with all these things, there has to be a point in the middle for both sides to meet. Amongst these suggestions is the calls for the addition of a mental health screening as part of the application process and continued screenings in order to keep the license valid. Now, some have said this is an infringement on civil rights, and of course this only would highlight diagnosed conditions. So helping me to break down these issues are today's panel, Chase Crosby, business owner and bearded conservative, and Brandon Coombs, founder of founder of the Gun Policy Coalition. Welcome back to the show, guys, and thanks for sharing with us. So who have we online? Welcome to the show. Is this you, Brandon?
Yes, it is. Thanks for having me on.
Hi, Brandon. Welcome to the show. We're just waiting for Chase to call in, but while we wait, tell me your immediate gut reaction to this this call for a mental health addition to the application process. Oh, that looks like that's Chase. Let me just bring him on. Is this Chase?
Yeah. Hey, Xander.
Hi, Chase. Welcome to the show. I was just saying to Brandon about, I'm just going to start off by getting Brandon's gut reaction to the suggestion that they should add a mental health section to the application process. What's your gut reaction to that, Brandon?
Well, my gut reaction is it's a rather insane policy, the suggestion, the fact that a fundamental right would be subject to some sort of a procedural matter like that. I mean, if people have not been adjudicated as mentally defective, then what we're really doing is saying that we're going to subject civil rights to some sort of a lay opinion or a smell test that's outside of the bounds of how constitutional rights are generally treated.
Right, absolutely. So what's your initial gut reaction to this, Chase?
It's pretty much just what Brandon just said. It's like how are you going to regulate that? Like, say a kid suffered with like anxiety or depression or ADD when he was younger. Does that mean when he's 18, because he has that, and however they keep this history, he's not going to be able to have a gun to defend himself if needed? Right, absolutely.
Now, I'm sure we're all in agreement regarding the heinous nature of all the aforementioned incidents. The big question that in all of this, for me, is whether any of those changes would result in fewer deaths from shootings, which obviously would be the aim of making any changes. Do you think that there would be a reduction with this added to the procedure, Chase?
No, I do not. I think that the people are they're going to find a way. If like a criminal or somebody that's just insane and wants to kill people, they're going to find a way to kill people. Whether it's steal a car, like they already broke a bunch of laws to do what they did. So I don't see how that's going to stop anything.
Right, absolutely. What about you, Brandon?
Well, look, the bottom line is, let's talk about Isla Vista for a minute. Elliot Rodger was clearly deranged. He had a lot of mental health issues over the years. He's a spoiled Hollywood brat, and the parents didn't have the fortitude to do their job and put him in a mental health institution Existing California law under Welfare and Institutions Code 5150, everybody knows what that is, would have prevented him from A, possessing firearms, and B, buying more, had either the law enforcement officers that investigated him or his parents pushed things and made things happen. The reality is the cops failed and the parents failed, and the reason why that happened is because a spoiled brat went nuts after he passed all of the 10,000 gun control laws we have here in California.
Right. Do you think that we should all be kind of, if we have friends or relatives that exhibit signs, should we be questioning these things, or should we just leave it to somebody else to maybe deal with? Because clearly, I don't believe that this guy in Santa Barbara that all of this just like happened in one day. This was this built up to this incident. I don't believe that there weren't signs before this. Should we be identifying, if we feel that we have friends that are potential threats, should we be telling someone about it? Let's start with you, Chase.
It would probably depend on the situation. Just from my point of view, we should all be good friends and good family members, and make sure like everything's in order with that person if they need help, or help them get the help they need, stuff like that. So yeah, it would just, I think that it's kind of our responsibility if somebody's kind of going off the edge to at least make sure. Like if you're a family and your family and like somebody in the family has guns, it's also that person's responsibility to make sure those aren't accessible, to practice proper gun safety, have a lock safe, stuff like that too. So.
Absolutely.
That's it.
So what do you say about that, Brandon?
Well, I think we've got to be careful because here in California, for example, and I know that New Jersey and even Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein have been promoting this on a national scale recently, but there's a gun violence restraining order program that's being pushed right now through a coalition of folks, beginning with the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, the Joyce Foundation, and so forth. So this basically would be a method in which anybody, your neighbor, anybody says, hey, court, we don't like this person, we think that they're scary, there's something off, please issue a restraining order and a corollary seizure warrant. And lay opinion would be accepted by the court, and somebody would be immediately stripped of their rights upon issuance of the restraining order. Now, in many cases, under this proposed law, this would happen ex parte, which means that the accused doesn't have an ability to face his accuser and challenge that accusation. And so I think that's really scary when you talk about having millions of law-abiding gun owners. In many cases, like California, New York, New Jersey, political minorities. These sorts of proposals provide tools under which the political majority or the those that have some sort of a beef or social beef can take and leverage this thing into a really dangerous future. And I think that that's going way too far. Our mental health system is clearly deficient, and we need to spend some time figuring out what's going to work. But I don't think giving people the tools to take away their neighbors' guns because they don't like what sort of a sign is in their yard in November of election years, that's a problem.
And how much do we feel that anti-psych meds need to be consideration for this? Because I know in some states that if you're on antipsychotic medication of any description, you're not allowed to own a gun, or you're not allowed to legally own a gun. How much of this needs to be part of the conversation, do you think, Brandon?
Well, look, if our civil rights are going to be dependent upon whether or not we're on Xanax, that takes about half of Americans out of the picture for free speech, voting, abortions. So let's be realistic here. All rights are dangerous. The fact is that mass murders are not actually going up in rate. They're not actually going up in scope. And so, relatively speaking, statistically speaking, the fact is that we're actually living in a fairly safe society that's been in recent years safer than it was 100 years ago. So, the fact that we're calling for these massive changes to our fundamental structure of rights, if the Second Amendment, which is not a second-class right, can be regulated in this way, all of the rest of them can too.
Absolutely, and I see that this issue is not about the responsible gun owners, but it's mostly the responsible gun owners that are actually going to be affected primarily by any of these suggested changes. Let me come to you, Chase. Now, some would say that there is a conflict between the right to bear arms and the right not to be shot. Where do you think the middle line is with all of this?
Wait, say that again. Sorry.
Some would say that there's a conflict between the right to bear arms and the right not to be shot. I actually read that this week. Where is the middle line with the conflict in these rights? And I know these are two extremes, but what I'm trying to do really is to find out where those that are pro-gun and where those that are anti-gun can actually begin to meet in the middle.
I don't know if that's what somebody thinks. It's because people own a gun. It's violating their right not to be shot. Like what about the person that defends his home with a gun against a burglar or somebody else, a criminal that's breaking the law that has a gun?
Right.
Like it's that person's right to defend himself with his own gun so he doesn't get shot. There's not really right to not get shot doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We have a right not to get ran over by a car. It's just the same argument goes with everything. I have a right not to get stabbed, so let's get rid of knives.
Right.
Let's get rid of cars.
But I don't think it's right. I don't think it's about actually owning the gun. It's about the sensible use. The sensible use of a gun. But one of the things that I think, personally, I am afraid of guns, and the reason I am afraid of guns is because I don't know how to use them. How far towards feeling comfortable about guns do you think knowing how to use them would go, Brandon?
Well, we see it every day when we take folks to the range, new shooters. I take reporters to the range, and others take reporters to the range. And every time, for the most part, when you get folks out there and you go through gun safety and people realize that these things are simply there to do what we tell them to do. They're tools. They don't do anything that they're not instructed to do. And they're a lot of fun. I think that really is the bottom line, culturally speaking anyway, towards the preservation of the Second Amendment and the advancement and the restoration of our history of being self-reliant and independent and confident in that, particularly with women and minorities. And I think that going to the range and getting people out there is absolutely critical to our cause. And going to your previous question, the fact is that if we can really address these things in a meaningful way, then I do think that more people are going to come to the table and talk. But simply promoting these sorts of wild-eyed bans and the gutting of the Second Amendment is just not what's on the table, and so we're never going to be able to get past that. The right to not be shot, is a good friend of mine just posted a comment on our thread, is the right to bear arms. It is the force equalizer.
Right. I absolutely see that, and what I'm trying to do is to look at all of the wider aspects of this. And one of the things that I heard recently, you may have heard me alluding to it in the interview with Dr. Gina Loudon, was with regards to responsible gun owners. If a responsible gun owner had been present, for instance, with the Santa Barbara shooter, that they might have been able to step in. How likely do you think that is that a responsible gun owner would shoot someone that was on a killing spree? Let's start with you, Chase.
It happens all the time. It's even the Newtown stats. I shared it on Facebook. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, where they're reporting all the school shootings, and it's just completely wrong number. Like it's like somewhere to 15 when they said it was 70, and there's so many times like self-defense, stopping a crime that they counted as a mass school shooting. But yeah, it's like even with the recent Vegas ones, like it's not going to always work, or you never know what happens when you're going against a crazy criminal. But there was a guy there that had a concealed carry permit and was in a position to stop them if the luck would if he would have just had a little bit more luck. But I'm glad there's people out that are like that want to take that risk, are willing to take that risk, and God bless his family. But
I mean, I certainly know people that are responsible gun owners that would not think twice about, somebody started to go wild with a gun and shoot people, that they wouldn't think twice about, taking out their gun and stopping them. What's your response to this, Brandon?
Well, the first point I'd like to make is that I think that the vast majority, going to nearing all gun owners in America, are very, very good people that actually care about their fellow man. And so, look, the reality is that we have one of the world's largest armed populations, and it's not even a standing military. And if the people's hearts were not as good as they are, that we would have a much different question before us today. So I'd like to start there, but more to the point, the Second Amendment was never a guarantee. It was always a protection of the right for a chance. The Second Amendment does not guarantee that a good guy with a gun is going to be in the right place at the right time and have all the conditions met to where the encounter will end as quickly as possible or prior to some sort of an evil act. It does guarantee the opportunity for good people to try, whether it's defending their own life or defending the lives of somebody else. And that is why it's so important.
I mean, my position has shifted. We spoke the last time you were on the show when we talked about guns and gun ownership, and even in the year and a half / 2 years between then and now, my position has shifted, and I used to be totally anti. But I think that what changes one's opinion is actually listening to both sides of the argument and having talked to lots of people about this. Yeah, if it's a legal right to own a gun in this country, I'm all for that. But the bell that rings in my brain is that should that be open to everybody? What do you think about that, Chase? Should that be open to everybody?
Well, it's already not open to everybody. If you're a felon, you're not allowed to get a gun. I think other than that, though, you have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to bear arms. Like if you've been charged with a gun crime or you're a felon, and you're already a criminal, I agree with that. But I think Brandon's probably more handled to answer this question than I am. He seems a lot more prepared.
Yeah, let's come to you, Brent. With the greatest of respect, obviously this is Brandon's specialist field, so yeah, I totally get that. Brandon, what's your response to that?
Well, my response is that I think Chase is absolutely right. In fact, he nailed it. The fact is the government's absolutely entitled to regulate some forms and some aspects of the Second Amendment right. Now, you said it was a legal right, and I just want to be very clear. What we're talking about here is a fundamental right. That it pre-exists government. Our founders thought it was so important to our system of ordered liberty and the way that we live in freedom that they codified it in the Bill of Rights, and that was once again taken up and ratified during the 14th Amendment post-Reconstruction. And so what we have here is not just a positive right that flows from statute or some sort of an act of government. This is a pre-existing. The fact that we're alive and human beings gives us something that is beyond anything else in terms of scope. No one else, nothing else in the animal kingdom is born into the world with these sorts of rights. And so that makes it very, very different for us. And Chase just absolutely nailed it. The government can make sure that violent criminals don't get guns. The government can make sure that people who've been adjudicated as mentally defective or mentally ill don't get guns. But beyond that, the scope of regulation has to be considered in terms of scrutiny with the fundamental nature of the right itself. And so what you're talking about is how do we balance these interests? And the Supreme Court already said that interest balancing is off the table. And some law professors and others out in our world anyway debate every day the nature of interest balancing in terms of how the Supreme Court addresses things like this. But what it did say was that rational basis scrutiny was off the table, which means it's not our job to prove that we have the right or that the law is unconstitutional. It's the government's job now to prove that any law that they pass or any law on the books is constitutional. So that's really the perspective or the optics that we should be looking at these issues. It's not our job to prove how our rights work. It's the government's job to prove that what they're doing is constitutional, is narrowly tailored, and it actually does what it's supposed to do in the least impactful way possible for all the good law-abiding people in America.
But you wouldn't disagree that there should be some elements of protection there. You're not saying that give everybody a gun regardless. There should be some elements of protection there. But I guess what I'm gleaning from what you're saying is that we should be quite careful about the amounts of protection that is put there to prevent people from getting guns.
Well, yeah, what I'm saying is that under the way that our constitutional law works, there's absolutely going to be room for regulation of the Second Amendment. But what it is also an acknowledgement of is that the social cost that goes with rights was already accepted, right? The policy debate happened when we ratified the Bill of Rights, including the Second Amendment as well as the 14th Amendment. We've already said, hey, this is dangerous. Should we do it? And that already took place. Our underlying social contract is already there. So, for example, the question becomes, how far can the government go? Not, hey, is this a right worth insisting upon? The Fourth Amendment, for example, a lot of rapists and murderers and dangerous people are freed because of the protections of the Fourth Amendment's protection against unlawful search and seizure, for example. The right to counsel is dangerous. How much easier would it be to put away bad guys if they didn't have a right to a lawyer or a speedy trial? They're all dangerous. All rights are very dangerous. So
we're coming to the end of our time together. Let's kind of find a conclusion with this. What I'm getting from you both is that you're not opposed to there being some stipulations placed upon gun ownership, but you wouldn't be in favor of a mental health facet to either the application of a license or the ongoing ownership of a license. Am I summing that up?
Well, I think that for myself anyway, I don't want to speak for Chase, but I think that the reality is in our system, we punish criminals. We don't have a pre-crime minority report thing where a couple of balls come rolling out of some machine and these pre-cards telling us who's going to commit a crime. Isn't it? It is. And so, for us, we punish people who do things that are bad or contrary to our social contract. Yes, there are ways to prevent bad people from getting guns, but again, criminals that are adjudicated as criminals have a record. We test that when they buy a gun. Right. We say, hey, is this person on the bad guy list or not? We're already doing that for mental health even. So, I think that we're already doing quite a lot, and perhaps those are not being effectively enforced. But in the case of California's recent shooting in Isla Vista, that was a guy who passed all of the checks and he did something bad anyway. That's always going to happen, unfortunately. There's
always going to be anomalies. And I guess the other thing that this doesn't really take into account is that the mental health issue in with regards to application of a license would only cover legally bought guns, because you're not going to go to some back street in Harlem to buy a gun and they're going to say, let's put you through a mental health check, sir, before we sell you this gun illegally, are they? Let's face it.
Well, no. I mean, the legal gun owners are going to follow the law, but the harder they make our gun laws, the more that they're going to drive people underground. In fact, the farther they go and the more they put the microscope on good people, and the more risky it becomes to be just a regular guy that enjoys guns or a regular woman that enjoys guns, the more that they're going to drive folks underground. And frankly, it's going to hurt us, and it's going to go right directly against the government's interest in keeping the public as safe as they can be.
Absolutely. Well, we have run out of time now. Thank you both for being on the show. Please tell people, we'll start with you, Chase, where they can find you on social media.
I'm on Twitter it's at 7_Chase. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not all politics like I used to be. I do a lot of other things there, so if you want to just hear a lot of random stuff, go ahead and follow.
Absolutely. I want you to change your Twitter to Bearded Conservative now. That's really what you should do.
That's a good idea. One of my friends gave me that idea the other day too. So.
Absolutely. And Brandon, tell people where they can find you, where your website is, and where they can find you on social media, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I'm out there on in the Twitterverse. My personal handle is Combs_Brandon. Be happy to field any questions or comments over in Twitter, as well as we have a couple of different websites, firearmspolicy.org. That's Twitter @gunpolicy. Those are probably the best places to find me. But we're out there fighting every day in California and nationally, and hope that everybody listening would join up with us and give us a hand.
Absolutely. Maybe when I'm in LA, maybe I could bring the cameras and come along to the shooting range with you and actually try out this shooting thing for myself to see if it eludes my fear at all. Maybe we can set that up when I come out to LA.
We can absolutely make that happen.
Brilliant. So thank you so much for joining us today for this panel discussion on guns, gun control. Thank you to Chase Crosby and to Brandon Coombs. Make sure you check them out on Facebook and Twitter, and make sure you follow them. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Well, that is all we have time for today on Xandermonium. I'm going to go outside now and enjoy a beer and a burger in the yard with my family. Thank you so much to all my guests today. Thanks to Tony Losacco. Thanks to Dr. Gina Loudon. Thanks to Brandon Coombs and to Chase Crosby. And most of all, thanks to you for listening. We'll be back with you next week with some fabulous guests, more info to come very soon. I love you all. Bye-bye.